I feel like, and you're going to see as we go through the list, like it's a little skewed in the kind of music and the type of artist.
It's a lot of middle of the road white dudes.
Yeah.
Let's just say what it is.
Welcome to Get to the Hook. I am your co-host, Charles Latibeaudiere.
And I'm your co-host, Eric Colley.
All right, and we are getting to the hook this week. I think there might be some interest, just a small amount of interest in the artist that is our hook this week.
A little bit.
What is her name? Gosh, it's Taylor Swift. Swift. Oh, Taylor Swift. That's it.
Yeah,
yes, Taylor Swift.
Is she still around? I didn't know.
Still around.
Wow.
By the way, is she ever going to come home? Is probably what Travis Kelce is wondering, because she is still on the road with the Eras Tour. And our hook this week is that the Eras Tour is now the highest grossing tour in the history of music.
The only tour ever to get over $1 billion. And it's not even done yet.
It is so impressive. And especially because when it started, everyone knew it was going to be big. And there was a lot of anticipation.
Remember, it crashed Ticketmaster's website and people couldn't get tickets. And
they had congressional hearings about this tour before it even started.
That is power.
We knew it was going to be a big deal, and for it to live up to expectations and exceed even is really, really impressive. So,
and remember that
I got
$1 billion
bad to say about Taylor Swift on that tour.
That billion doesn't even factor in how much money the movie made. The Eras Tour movie made hundreds of millions in theaters. Plus, now it's made so much more on streaming.
For all those people who were angry that they couldn't get through on Ticketmaster, you get to watch it at home.
Yeah. Well, that's so the top grossing tours of all time. We just looked at the top 10. Most of these, they're all in the 2000s. The oldest tour on this list is from 2005, which makes sense.
Yes.
This is not number of tickets sold. This is not accounting for inflation or anything.
This is just your revenue.
Who made the most money on tour? And so it's, of course, going to be more recent. Although all these sold a lot of tickets. These are big names.
These are all going to be, because of the volume of tickets you have to sell to make this much money. You're talking about people who are doing stadium tours. So I feel like, and you're going to see as we go through the list, like it's a little skewed in the kind of music and the type of artist.
It's a lot of middle of the road white dudes. Let's just say what it is. There's only in this top 10
broad audience.
Only one person of color in the top 10. Only 2 women, and one is Taylor.
And it's got to be music that lends itself to a huge stage like this, and you got to have a live band performing as well.
Right.
So, without further ado,
well, 9 and 10 are the only act that have 2 separate tours on this list.
It's got to be the Rolling Stones.
It is the Rolling Stones, the No Filter tour from 2017 to 21, minus a COVID pause there. All these are going to have a COVID break usually. 547 million. The Bigger Bang tour in 2005, which is the oldest tour on this list, 558 million. So $1 billion between those two. I just saw them a few days ago.
Oh, you saw
SoFi
when they were here at SoFi?
Yeah, the Hackney Diamonds tour. I know people joke about, Gathering Moss and Mick is 80-something and Keith's in his 80s. When are they going to hang it up?
They're both 80.
Yeah,
both 80.
They are phenomenal live still. I mean, Mick still struts and preens and spins and does his whole thing.
It really is amazing. What the difference I saw, and I didn't see them on this tour. I saw the last one when they were at SoFi. I watch him now and I go like, be careful. Be careful. Because you're right, he's still doing those same moves, and maybe he's a little bit slower, but he's still putting the same energy into it, and you just go like, please be careful. Be careful, because you just think you're 80, but he is in phenomenal shape.
Seem like that. Now, Keith's looked 80 since he was 30, so it's sort of like, okay. But, Keith just kind of stands and plays his guitar and does his thing, but Mick is just one of, if not the greatest frontman in rock history.
This was the one tour. This particular Rolling Stones tour, the one you just saw, is a landmark one for me because I didn't see it. And I started seeing the Stones the first time I saw them was 89. It was
Steel
Wheels tour. And I remember I was in New York City at the time, and I went to their announcement of the tour. It was at Grand Central Station, and I took off from lunch and went down to Grand Central and fought through the crowd. And I got up there and I saw them walk in and have their news conference.
Wow.
And it was really cool to watch it. And I just remember everybody saying at the time, God, these guys, how are they still doing this? How are they? I mean, it's amazing. Look at their age, and they're still going out and they're going to go on tour. And it was a phenomenal show. And I've seen with the exception of, I think there was one tour. I didn't see Bigger Bang,
Okay.
but I've seen every tour since then. And I finally just decided this time, enough. This is no offense to the Stones or Stones fans. I still
You've
love
seen
the
enough.
Stones, but I just felt like the last 2 times I saw them, the shows were similar enough that I was like, I've seen it. I don't
Yeah.
have to go.
You've heard Start Me Up and Satisfaction enough.
I've heard them all, and they're still great.
Still great.
The thing about the Stones, that was the last show I saw before the pandemic, and the first show I saw after the pandemic. Rose Bowl before, and then SoFi after.
Right.
But-
And that is our number 10 tour on here. So yeah, this was actually, I'm the opposite of you. This is the first time I've ever seen them,
Really?
which is why my wife and I were like
You gotta
Christmas,
go.
we're like, we have to go. Like, you know, tickets are not cheap. We didn't get the super expensive tickets because that's insane. But, you know, you spend a couple $100 because
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, yeah, they're 80, but they can still do it. But there's only so much longer they are going to be able to. I mean,
Yeah,
10 years from now, they'll be
eventually.
90.
I mean, here's the thing, and I hate to talk about this because I don't.
No, I know.
I'm not going to.
maybe they'll be
I'm not
100.
going to put it out there.
Yeah.
But at some point, they've already lost
Charlie
two
Watts,
members,
yeah.
2 members to death, and 1 member who's dropped out. I don't know how many more they could lose before
Right.
they're just going to have to say we're done. You know.
And yeah, and also, yeah, like I said, they sounded great. They still put on a show. I think they wouldn't do it if they couldn't.
Right.
But even if they couldn't, if they were just like Mick and Keith and Ron Wood are just going to stand on stage and you just get to walk by and look at them, they're not even going to play. I'd pay like $50 for that.
Yeah.
Just to be like, hey. But you're right. It's funny. My brother did see the Steel Wheels tour in '89,
Right.
and I remember then thinking like, God, yeah, like you said, like they're so old. And now at this show, I was thinking about that tour, and I was like, wow, my brother saw them in their prime, which was still 25 years into their career.
Right. Exactly.
There's
Did they have an
nothing like
opening
the
act, by the
Stones.
way?
The Linda Lindas opened when I saw them,
Okay.
and War and Treaty opened a couple nights before because I had some friends who saw them.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
All right. I saw Living Color open for
Oh.
them when I saw them at Shea.
Also, being a Prince fan, I was thinking
And
watching
Prince opened
watching Mick on stage. He opened for them in '81, got booed off stage in L.A.
the
Mick
Coliseum.
Jagger is the only living person on earth that Prince opened for, because the only other person he ever opened for was Rick James, and he's dead.
Wow.
I was like, wow, Mick. That's the thing when I look at Mick
Mixing it
Jagger, I
up.
just think of all the like you were the British invasion in Vietnam, and you were there at
He's
MTV
a
when it
walking
started.
catalog of music, not just his own, but everything else that has
Just-
happened around the Stones.
Just
And
culture and history of the past 60 years.
Yeah.
And even up into the 2010s, moves like Jagger by Maroon 5 or Kesha talking about, you know, looking like Mick Jagger. He's still a cultural touch
Yeah.
point for cool. And they've made a lot of money touring.
indeed, good for them.
Number 8 ahead of
Well
them, the one of the only 2 women besides Taylor, the only non-white person on this list.
Give it up.
Beyonce.
For Beyonce.
Renaissance tour.
Thank you for holding it down, Beyonce.
$580 million. Wow. Yeah.
And I think Reagan. Did you know this? A lot of people don't know this. I guess people at the TV audience won't really know this, but one of our executive producers here, Ryan Reagan, is a huge Beyonce fan. Has seen.
He's in the
her-
Beehive?
Yeah, he's very quietly in the Beehive, but he has seen her, I think, 4 times.
That is weird to me because
He
like,
doesn't-
10
not the
years ago,
guy.
we had a conversation. He had never seen a live concert before. He goes, I'm just not really that into music.
She was the first and is, I think, the only live show he's seen.
But he's
This-
going to see
this
her 4
means nothing-
times.
This means
I know,
nothing
it's just
to
a guy
everyone
we
at
work
home.
with.
It's an inside joke
He's
for
a,
us.
he's a
but
sports dude. He's not a music guy. So it's surprising to me that there would be any artist he would go see 4 times.
But that's
and
how
that it would be
powerful
Beyonce.
Beyonce is. That
I
she
would have
got-
picked literally anybody else on this list. I would have thought he'd be more into than Beyonce.
Yes, very lily white, broy dude from Philly,
Yeah.
and loves Beyonce.
All right.
Now
well,
I've outed him, and he's probably going to get all mad at me. But
yeah. Well,
I
he's
said
in the Beehive. You can't make them mad. Number 7, Guns N' Roses, not in this Lifetime tour, so not one of their 80s tours or 90s tours. This was in the 2016 to 2019 when they finally got back together.
I saw that tour in Vegas.
Yeah.
That was when I saw them. Axl still had the broken. Was it
Oh, right. Yeah, that was right
foot?
when the tour started, so early on.
Yeah,
when he broke his
was
foot.
sitting in the throne,
Yeah.
watching, which was different. I mean, they sounded great, but it did take away from the energy of
Yeah.
a GNR.
When the singer's just sitting there.
Right.
But that's a good prep for when you are 80, 90 years old. If you do need to sit, be like, hey,
They
remember
know
we
we
did
can
this
do it.
30 years
Yeah,
ago?
we-
You liked it then. We'll do it now. Yeah, that tour made $584 million because there was so much pent-up demand.
Yeah.
I think an act that is not on this list, although they were huge in the 70s, but I think even at this point, if Led Zeppelin ever got back together, that tour would make insane amounts of money.
We've talked about this,
Yeah, I know.
the show that I missed out on, that I one of my biggest musical regrets, that I did not had it all planned out, had the itinerary, had our flights, where we would go, and my buddy just we both balked at it. We're like, nah, we don't need to. They're going to go on tour.
I'm so disappointed in you, honestly.
It was a very sad decision. Anyway, let's move
Next
on.
door, did you go to this one? From 21 to 23, Harry Styles' Love on Tour, 617
I
million.
did not see it.
My wife did. She went to the
yeah?
forum. Yeah,
I was kind of, the longer it went on, the more I was like, maybe I should go check out and see what this is about.
I would have gone. I didn't go with her because it was a weeknight.
Yeah.
Weeknight concerts are rough when we
Right.
get up at 5 a.m., 4 a.m. But Harry puts on a good show. He entertains. He
Yeah.
knows what his audience wants. He has a lot of hits.
It's really impressive for a guy who doesn't have the catalog
He's got 3
that
albums.
the people we've spoken about already.
Yeah.
And for him to do a tour that makes it, I mean, that's a credit to him as a performer.
To be fair, Guns N' Roses doesn't have that many albums. I mean, they're basically
true.
touring off of Appetite for
Yeah.
Destruction and Use Your Illusion. So
That's true. That's true.
you have a
There's a mystique to them over
Yeah.
the years. They're just an older band that would have a larger fan base, you think. But Harry holding it down.
Yeah, he is. Number 5, Coldplay. A lot of people make fun of Coldplay.
I really do love to
But
make fun of Coldplay.
They
but
are very popular.
When have you ever seen a Coldplay live clip that isn't a packed stadium with people all chanting together, or they've got their not lighters, their cell phones out now?
Yeah.
It is always a very impressive output for a band that, like we said, people just love to mock. But
And I guess I think of Coldplay as, you think of them as sort of mostly kind of softer music. Even their
Yes.
up-tempo stuff still has kind of a mellow vibe to it a lot of the times. But yeah, you see them live clips and stuff, and the light show, and Chris Martin has so much energy, and
Yeah.
it seems like it would be pretty amazing. I've never seen them live.
I went to see them at the Bowl,
Mhm.
at the Hollywood Bowl. Oh, it would have been early 2000s, I guess.
So pretty early on in their career.
Yeah, and this was before they were doing a lot of the more pop, upbeat songs
Right.
that they
This
do
was like
now.
Yellow and Clocks and
Yes,
that
it was
period.
all of that. And I had a coworker who was British and was all about Coldplay, and I was like, I just know that people make fun of it. And he's like, come on, you're gonna go. And we went to the show, and actually, I enjoyed it. I really did.
Yeah,
but
I'm
you're
sure-
right. It's definitely a mood. You got to be in the right mood for it.
Right.
So kudos to them.
Yeah. And Coldplay, I feel like, is the modern version of the next band on this list, U2. Although U2 was maybe seen as cooler in their prime in the 80s
They
and
were,
early 90s.
yes.
But
But
people think they're kind of a joke to people, especially younger people. I think putting that free album on the phone turned a whole generation
It is
against them.
amazing to me how much people hold on to this.
What was that?
Who cares, people? It was like it was an album that ended up. So if you didn't want to listen to it, don't listen to it.
Just delete
Just
it off.
delete it. Why is this such a thing that you're holding on to?
Because
Like,
it was a violation, Charles. Like you don't want to open your phone and just see some random. I don't. Who are these old Irish guys? I don't want them on my phone.
It's not like Bono sent a dick pic out to you. Like what? It's just
that would not have
music.
gotten as much hate. Everybody would have looked at that.
Oddly, I think you're right. That would have gotten less hate than putting an album there. But look, I'll ride with U2 on a live show.
Yeah,
they're great. I mean,
I think also we're that generation that grew up when they were the coolest thing in the world, and they were innovative,
Yeah.
and they were changing their. They were the, save the world rock guys, and then they went all electronic and techno and weird, and then just
and to me,
it was interesting.
You don't have to get into, and I know it bugs people that Bono is sort of like you said, this save the world sort of vibe.
He also actually does do a lot of good.
Yeah, and he does. But even if you're not into that, and you're like, I don't want a band to preach to me,
Sure.
that's fine. Go for the music, because the music alone, just I don't know, go to the bathroom while he's doing a little thing in between songs. But the music, you can't argue with that. I can't. It's
those songs
tremendous.
Like even like the most obvious ones that you've heard a billion times, like With or Without You. You're like, oh, I've heard that song so many times, but it's such a beautiful song.
You get into it.
It's hard not to.
I saw them do the whole Joshua Tree at the Rose Bowl.
Like they're just like an anniversary,
the anniversary. So they did Joshua Tree, and then they did like 4 or 5 other songs at the end. And then I saw them at the Sphere last year, which was phenomenal. By the way,
the Sphere. It's the Eagles now, right? Or
the Eagles are going to be in the fall. Dead and Company there now.
Yeah.
I just saw my first Grateful Dead show ever at the age of 55. By the way,
I've never seen the Dead live.
yeah, I've
Also,
never
I'm,
either.
I'm surprised they're not on this list, but I'm
No
not
Dead
because
show. Yeah.
also isn't the like these are like specific tours and different eras. Isn't the Dead just all one long tour that's
It's
been
just
going on since the
it's just
60s?
always going on.
They've played like 11 songs in all that time because
Uh,
every song goes for 6
They
hours.
go forever. We were we at
Oh,
the
here's the
show
45-minute guitar solo.
on Saturday night. Went to the show. By the way, the visuals that they've produced for this are out of this world, almost literally. And I got up to go to the bathroom at some point, and I came back, and my friend who was with me, she goes, "You just missed another guitar solo. It's no big deal."
Actually,
but-
it's the same guitar solo.
But John Mayer was amazing. They're much better musicians than I thought,
Oh yeah, that's
than I expected. Almost like a jazz band. But it was just the music was phenomenal. I didn't know a lot of the songs.
Yeah.
They didn't play that many that I know. I didn't know this. Just a quick aside, and we're going a little off beat because Grateful Dead's not on this list.
But-
I didn't know this. They don't, when they're playing like in one city and they're doing like 3, 4, 5 nights,
Mhm.
they don't do the same set list
yeah, they change it
at
up.
all. They completely change the set list.
Oh, not a single song's the same.
Not a single song's the same. So they played Thursday, Friday, Saturday in Vegas. Each night, completely different set lists.
Which is, you were saying there's a lot of songs you didn't know, and we talked about this recently, that technically, chart-wise, the Grateful Dead are a one-hit wonder with Touch of Grey, which most of their fans don't want to hear that song anyway.
Right.
That was their
And
80s
they didn't
hit.
play it.
But like the Grateful Dead don't have hits that the audience, like if you're a casual fan, you're not going to hear their hits because there aren't any in that
Right.
sense. You're just going for the music and you just want to hear the catalog. And that's
I
the
didn't
great
hear-
thing for them.
I didn't hear
Trucking,
cocaine.
or,
I didn't
yeah,
hear trucking. I didn't hear.
Scarlet Begonias or
Yeah.
something.
I think
That's-
they did play Scarlet Begonia.
They did. So, you know, talking about seeing the Stones, you said you've seen them. I did appreciate, we had, my friends went a couple nights before we did, and the song I really, really wanted to hear was Miss You. I love Miss
Mhm.
You by the Stones.
They don't play it all the time.
They don't. And our friends went and we looked at the set list and they did not. I was like, you know, I'm still going to enjoy the show.
Yeah.
But so they, you know, you're going to hear, like I said, Satisfaction, Start Me Up, you know, Give Me Shelter. There's certain songs you know they're
Right.
going to play. They did do Miss You. I was very excited about
Wow.
that. Yeah, I was happy for that. They played Heartbreakers, like one of their 70s hits that they never play. So they have enough hits they can switch it up.
Yeah.
I saw Roger Daltrey from The Who recently was complaining that the internet has destroyed concerts because you can look up the set list and know what the band's going to
so
play.
You know, yeah.
And then everyone's response to him was, change up your set list. And The Who have enough songs they could do
They do.
that.
Yeah.
But, you know, some bands just like to have the same things every night.
Exactly.
Anyway,
Less work for them.
what was your first concert, by the way?
My very first concert. My very first concert was Lisa and Cult Jam.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Lisa and Cult Jam.
Head to Toe and
And,
Lost in Emotion. era?
It was even before.
I
that
Wonder If I
came
Take You
out.
Home?
Yeah, it was that era. I think I saw him at West Point. Yeah, I think it was at West Point.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that was my first. You?
Kiss.
Really?
Yeah. But like in the 90s when they put the makeup back on
Right.
and the four originals got back together.
So
That's still one of the best shows. I've
that
ever
was
seen.
your first live show. I have only seen Kiss live once, and it was when they had no makeup. But Kiss Alive 2 is my first album that was ever bought for me, that I
Right.
ever owned. It was a gift.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Uh,
All right, we have that in common. Anyway,
yeah.
back to the list.
Number 3.
Back to the countdown. As
Back to the countdown. Number 3. This one, I looked this up. So by number of tickets sold, this is actually number 1. It's just his prices are
He
lower
had lower
than
prices.
the 1 and 2.
Well, shout out
And-
to him then.
And also did more shows. There was like 260 shows on this tour, I think. Like
oh my
Taylor's Eras tour it hasn't even finished yet. So
Right.
by the time that ends, it might pass this. But Ed Sheeran's Divide tour, the 2017 to 2019 tour,
Mhm.
$776 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ed Sheeran, one guy.
Yeah.
One guy out there.
People love him. People also hate him, but people love him.
Yeah.
And I've never gone to one of his tours, but a couple of years, like 10 years ago, the Grammys did a tribute to Stevie Wonder.
I
And,
remember that. Yes.
And I went to that, and Ed Sheeran performed at it. He did that thing where he like live loops
record
himself.
and loops.
It's like he'll play a guitar hook and loop it live and start playing it back, and then add
Play over
elements and
that.
add vocals. And he builds his whole song by the end.
And he does that in the live shows.
Yeah, he does do
too,
that.
like
yeah,
in and he's playing stadiums, which
Yeah.
is also impressive for just one guy who doesn't have dancers.
Yeah.
It's not a lot of pyrotechnics or anything.
and it is actually live. If he messes up on that loop, the whole thing's thrown off. It's got to be perfect every night. And so, I mean, I don't hate Ed Sheeran. I like some of his songs. I'm not a huge fan in particular, but I was very impressed by his talent. and I get why people love him as much as they do. My mom loves Ed Sheeran, that is how you sell tour tickets.
That's
you
how
got
you get
kids like you,
that's how you
moms
get
like
S's
you.
in these stadium seats.
You got to have broad appeal. And number 2 on this list, few people have as broad appeal as Elton John.
This is true.
The Farewell Yellow Brick Road Tour, his farewell tour. This is from 2018 to 2023, minus a year and a half for COVID.
Right.
$939 million, just under $1 billion.
Oh, man. Elton, he just missed $1 billion.
Close.
Would have been a nice way to go out.
And, he swears this is his final tour, and I actually do believe this one.
I think I do also.
Because the way he said, he didn't say, I will never play live again. He goes, if I feel like doing some shows, I will. He goes, but I'm never going to do a massive world tour like this
where he's got to
again.
travel like that. Yeah.
He's in his, late 70s
and
now?
it seemed like
his kids are young.
We both saw the show at Dodger Stadium, right?
No, I went to the one at the Forum.
Oh, you did? Okay. Yeah, the Dodger Stadium show, I'm not saying he put on a great show. I'm not saying he was tired, but you could tell he's just okay.
Yeah, he's not doing handstands on the piano anymore. That's not his thing. And also, it is funny. I do appreciate this. As you get older, your voice tends to get lower. So hitting those high notes is a lot harder.
Yeah.
He did Crocodile Rock, and the la, 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 which is very high-pitched. He just let the crowd do that part.
Right.
He was playing, let the crowd sing, and he would come in with the ad-libs.
Because he knows they're going to do it anyway.
Yeah, he's like, you're going to do it. I'm going to struggle if I try it. And I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah.
I don't expect him to hit the same notes he did when he was 22.
Yeah, exactly. That's, you know what? The fact that he's still doing it, I have so much respect for that. And if you can't hit a note, I'm never going to be like, oh, well, the Stones aren't what they are anymore. Of course they're not what they were. They're just...
But they're also still good, and they're still way better than almost everybody else.
Right, exactly.
And then, Taylor...
And then top of the heap.
Yeah, Taylor Swift, $1 billion. She is coming back to the U.S. again, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yes, she is.
I did not see the tour when it was in L.A.
I think she is... Is she coming? Do anyone know? Is she coming back to L.A.? I know she's...
I don't... I think she's going to...
She's going to be nearby.
Pretty sure Louisiana. I'm not sure she's going to
Not coming to the West Coast at all?
No, I think she's done with that. She did 4, 5, 6 nights here.
I don't... Just in our own office, I know 5 people who went to Europe to go see her. So, maybe we could make a trip back east somewhere to see her.
The saddest thing I've heard people saying, I've heard multiple people say this about people who've gone to Europe to see her, that ticket prices are so expensive in the U.S. and all the fees from Ticketmaster and stuff. It is cheaper to book a flight to Europe and see the concert there than it is to buy it here in the U.S., which is true. I just saw there's a guy named David, spelled D4VD, because that's how people spell their names now. He's a new artist. He's I don't think he's even 20 years old yet. I saw him last year at a little small club here in L.A., and I love his album. He put on a great live show. But his tickets were $30, $40. I'm like, sweet, for a small venue. If he blows up, then it's cool to get to see him before he gets big.
Right.
So I bought 2 tickets. I'm like, it's $80. That's pretty good. With all the fees, it was $150. I'm like, it's like buying 4. I almost bought 4 tickets to buy the 2. I'm like, that's infuriating.
Crazy. It really is infuriating. Hey, before we go, I gotta I mentioned that I saw Dead & Company last week at the Sphere. That was Saturday night. You want to talk about a diverse weekend? Guess who I saw on Friday night?
Ooh.
New Edition.
Oh, sweet.
So I saw New Edition Friday night at the Wynn, and they have a limited residency. I think they have 3 more shows coming up in October, end of October. They're great, man. They were great. I will say, Bobby, and they do all the choreography, and they look great. Bobby is the only guy who doesn't really move the same way, and they just play into it. He will walk off the stage for some songs. He comes back out and makes a joke about it. He's like, well, I wasn't in the group at that time.
Well, that's his prerogative.
Exactly. But I'm telling you, he still brought his vocal much better than I expected.
So many hits there.
And so many hits. They did all the New Edition hits. They did BBD. They did Johnny Gill solo stuff, Bobby Brown solo.
Ralph Tresvant
did his, everything. It was a great show. If you can see it in October, I think it's October into November.
Well, go see shows if you can, people. We all missed it during the pandemic, and this is how artists make money now. They're not selling records anymore, so this is their livelihood. If you like the music, go see the people.
Exactly. And that's going to do it for us this week. We will see you next week.